Hey, I'm Gus.
And I'm Addison.
And we are not alive!
Much like many of the men contained in Catherine Black's secret mystery freezer.
Oh, what could be in there? Is it a good movie? Probably not!
Oh, it's definitely not.
So, Addison, tell me a little bit about how you even found this nightmare called Me, You Madness.
So I first discovered this movie on a video by Nick DeRamio, who's a commentary YouTuber that I love, who makes a series called Clip Breakdown, where he breaks down clips from various pieces of media. Covers, he finds obscure, weird Christian films and other stuff like that, and then he found this. And when I heard about it, I was just fascinated and could not stop thinking about it. And then I went down a rabbit hole of reading more about Louise Linton, because he mentioned in the video that she was married to Steve Mnuchin, who was a member of the Trump administration. He was one of the few members of Trump's cabinet that Trump did not dismiss. He was the Secretary of the Treasury from 2017 to 2021. That made my brain explode. I was like, okay, that means that it's possible that money related to the Trump administration financed this film, because this film was produced partially by Louise Linton under her Storm Chaser Films or Pictures brand, which if you go to their website, it is the jankiest website in the entire world because all the money in the world cannot buy you taste or web design skills. And it's just an empty page with a weird video trailer that plays that you cannot click out of, and there's no other things on the website to click.
I went there to try and learn more about the backstory of this thing, and all I got was that repeating logo. And I gotta say too, when something's connected to the Republicans and it has Storm Chasers as the name, my brain goes to a lot of things associated with American conservatism.
Yeah, it does definitely go to a different place than I think Louise Linton would have intended. Before we talk about the movie, I have to talk about her a little bit because she's a fascinating figure to me. Louise Linton is from Edinburgh. She is the child of two people that own Melville Castle outside of Edinburgh, where she used to spend her weekends. So, she is playing a character with a lot of money in this movie, and she is also someone with a lot of money. She has had a couple of controversies over the course of her life. She wrote a memoir in 2016 about her time volunteering in Zambia during her gap year. The memoir is called In the Shadow of the Congo, and it is a book in which she depicts herself as a central character in the events that befell war-torn Zambia during the time she was doing her gap year there.
Oh no, she's that kind of person.
The Zambian High Commission in London criticized the book for its inaccuracies and promotion of the false white savior narrative.
Ooh, boy, oh boy. See, every time I hear more about this woman, Louise Linton, I just have to ask, are the Republican wives of America okay? Can someone check on all of them as a demographic?
You know they're not.
No, I know they're not.
Okay.
There needs to be a UN sanction into the Republican wives of America.
I would like to tell you a little bit about her acting career, and then I'll tell you one more controversy before we get into the film.
I am shocked that there was an acting career prior to this.
There was. She had a guest role on CSI New York, playing a French au pair to a teenager played by Shailene Woodley. This was 2007. Then she was in a couple of other things. She was in a Robert Redford directed film called Lions for Lambs, starring Tom Cruise and Meryl Streep. However, her scenes were dropped from the final release. She was cut from the movie. Then in 2008, she had her movie that was supposed to be, I think, her kind of breakout. It was an American supernatural horror film called The Echo. She was not the director's first pick of actresses, but she did manage to change his mind. Not with, her talent or, even just a stirring argument, but with the fact that her then husband, Ronald Richards, paid the director $200,000 to put her in the movie.
Honey, can I be in this movie? Pay the director, please.
For my birthday, I want you to buy me a movie role. To give credit to this girl boss where credit is due, I think she bought herself this movie.
This is her story. This is her movie.
Yeah. In 2009, she posed for Maxim, which dubbed her the most backhanded compliment I can think of. The hottest thing to come out of Scotland since microwaved haggis.
Wow. That's a wild thing to say about a human being.
Yes, and then in 2017, this is the one reason a lot of people might have heard of Louise Linton in the first place. She got in trouble in the media and sort of on social media because she posted a picture of herself on Instagram going with Steve Mnuchin to Fort Knox on a US government plane, and she used hashtags in that to highlight every piece of designer clothing and accessory that she wore.
So she writes her real life kind of like she writes her movie.
Yes, and specifically responded to critiques of that by saying that that the critic was adorably out of touch and that she contributed more to the US economy and paid more in taxes than anyone criticizing her.
You don't understand, darling. I'm rich and too good for you. That's why you don't get why I do things.
I'm rich, darling.
I'm so rich.
In November of 2017, bad year for Linton and Mnuchin, they sparked a new wave of criticism when they were photographed holding a sheet of dollar bills, the first to include Mnuchin's signature at the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. She just really likes money. She also was one of the people who got busted in a New York Times expose about people purchasing fake Instagram followers.
Oh no! That's especially sad if you're already famous.
And then to give some credit where credit is due, she's also an animal rights activist, which explains one weird tangent that occurs in the film. That's Louise Linton. Should we talk about her magnum opus?
Yeah, let's talk about the Louise Linton vehicle, the vanity project that is MAGA Girlboss American Psycho, Me You Madness.
Me You Madness. Here's the thing about this film that makes me the hardest on it out of anything. Like, I'm especially harsh on this film because it is, like, but a hair's breadth away from the kind of thing that I love. I think well known at this point. I believe in women's wrongs. I love movies about, like, evil, like, female characters or, like, morally gray female characters. I love, like, a lady monster. I love American Psycho, too. American Psycho is one of my favorite movies. Not the book, but the movie. There's a lot of things in this that I am a huge fan of when they're done well. It's like watching somebody take, like, a bunch of my favorite foods and, like, leave them on a counter for 3 days, then put them in a blender, blend them up together, and then put a straw in and be like, drink it, you love these.
God, it's so unfortunate. Like, this woman, I simply cannot support her wrongs.
I simply do not. I do not support Catherine Black's wrongs.
Yeah.
This movie abuses voiceover worse than I've ever seen a project abuse voiceover as a device.
There was a point in the movie where, like, almost a whole scene passed where, like, she wasn't saying anything in voiceover, and then it happened, and I was like, oh, for a moment I thought. We
thought we were done with this.
Yeah, I thought it was over.
When voiceover is used well, I'd actually love to, use an example. Another piece of media whose protagonist is a killer. The show You uses voiceover very, very well, because Joe is an unreliable narrator, so it uses voiceover. You get a lot of Joe justifying his actions while the audience can see him doing a thing that is, like, unequivocally fucked up.
Yeah, and that's the kind of stuff that could have been fun in a movie like this, but instead, Catherine Black is too reliable a narrator in that she will just flatly explain not only everything about the situation, but, like, every, like, nuance of her thoughts. There is no such thing as subtext in this movie.
There is only text.
Yeah, well, it's not even just the voiceovers, because, like, as the film goes on, there are scenes that, like, bafflingly have, like weird cartoon sound effects added onto them.
Why are there Vine sound effects in this movie?
Yeah, there's, like, Vine booms, there's, like, the Flintstones, like, car run.
Hey, Gus, can I ask you a question that genuinely plagued my thoughts the entire time I watched this movie, both times that I watched it?
Oh, sure, please.
What is she?
What is she, like, in terms of...
Like, is she a lady who is a murderer like Patrick? Is she a lady Patrick Bateman? Or is she a creature? Because she eats a spider, and she implies that she is ageless and that she shapeshifts.
What I think that Catherine Black is as a character, like, on a fundamental level, is who Louise Linton is, like, imagining herself to be when she's, like, alone in her home. She's like, in my mind, music is always playing, and I've got a cool badass monologue, and I eat spiders, and I've got a container full of, like, all the dead bad people that I've killed in real life.
Put a pin in this, but all I could think of while watching this is that this movie would be so much better if she was just, like, up front, just, like, a vampire.
Yeah, make her the Babadook. Make her Morbius.
If you're trying to go, like, she's a blood-sucking, like, materialist, make it literal. Make her, like, a cool, like, fucking super wealthy lady vampire who tries to victimize and eat a young man only to discover that he's, like, a serial killer or something.
What's really funny, too, is that, like, this is so obviously somebody who is, like, fantasizing about, like, oh, what if I had everything I wanted and then I got to marry a younger man?
Literally, I was like, what does Steve Mnuchin think of the fact that she wrote and directed this weird power fantasy where she's like, and then I fuck Ed Westwick?
Yeah. Exactly.
Ed Westwick is a very bad person. Like, he deserves this movie.
Would you feel if your husband wanted to get involved once again in politics?
I wrote down so many times in my notes, girl, who are you talking to? She has voiceover and as a character knows she's in a movie.
No, it's terrible because there will be so many times she'll turn to the screen and then like list all of the movies that like she, and by she I don't mean Catherine Black, I mean Louise Linton, all the movies that she watched while her husband wasn't hanging out with her and like she was just bored at home.
You may be thinking this is just a ripoff of American Psycho.
That was insane.
Girl, don't remind me of the better movie I could be watching right now. She reminds me, throughout this, she reminds you of so many better movies you could be watching.
No, exactly, because she'll like name drop the entire like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
She's listing all these Bruce Lee movies.
Yeah, she brought up like all these like different like martial arts movies when she has like the nunchucks in this, and she has so many ridiculous and expensive weapons, most of which she doesn't even use in this movie to kill, what's his name, Tyler? Yeah.
Also, I wish this movie was a ripoff of American Psycho. It's like an approximation of one, but if it were like trying to rip it off more directly, it would be a better movie.
Also, okay, what is the deal with the fact that like she has like a random like girlfriend who just shows up who like may or may not also give off like vampire vibes but like does nothing for the plot of this?
See, this is what I'm saying. If it's a vampire movie, then that's her like vampire lover and they're gonna kill this guy together, but then maybe they're like, ooh, I don't know, he's kind of fun.
You know, I'm just, again, it's like, what does Steve Mnuchin think of the fact that like his wife is like, and in this movie I have a girlfriend and a much younger boyfriend.
Exactly. It's a very revelatory piece of media. Like, it's very revealing, rather.
It really is.
Side note, I did make multiple notes of this, and I told you this one-on-one before we got on this call. One of the movie's sole redeeming qualities is, I will admit this reluctantly, the wardrobe does slap. They dress her beautifully, and I'm sure on purpose so that she could keep all of those clothes. I think she probably just did that so she could get a bunch of clothes she wanted.
Oh, absolutely. Well, the first like couple scenes of this movie, I swear that like her gold boots get more screen time than her face.
They do. They're such good boots. I wrote down in the fucking I wrote down in my notes that the boots are one of the better parts of the movie.
The boots are my favorite character, if I'm being honest.
Can't stop thinking about the fact that she makes herself a martini when he comes over with like room temperature vodka from decanters, and it looks so gross.
You know what's a sure sign of a movie that like has like a very solid structure and knows what to do with all of its time? Long, drawn out, let's play the entire song musical dance/sex sequences.
Am I wrong in thinking that perhaps this movie's entire budget went to her wardrobe, the location of the house, and the rights to all those 80s songs?
You know what? You're probably not wrong, because like the second half of this does just evolve into like a Tom and Jerry chase scene around the house.
Because I'm thinking about these are like proper, like Take On Me and Let's Hear It for the Boy and I Think We're Alone Now by Tiffany, which by the way, all I can think about, this is a very silly thing, but when she was having her like I Love Pink and 80s music workout montage, I was really mad that the voiceover was interrupting it, because I'm like, just let this scene be her just being like silly and working out in her pink outfit to Tiffany while there's a passed out man that she drugged in her living room, and that's way like one funnier and way eerier. Like, just shut up the voiceover, just turn it off, stop it.
Yeah, exactly.
And she's taking it away from me. Louise Linton took this away from me because now it can't happen. How much, if this were the good vampire camp movie version, version of this movie that I imagine, there would be a scene like the Huey Lewis in the News scene where she is waiting for Tyler to pass out from the drugs in his drink while she is monologuing to him about Tiffany, the pop artist from the 80s who started performing in malls, and how I Think We're Alone Now is like a masterpiece of modern music.
Yeah, that would have been charming, but that would imply that on some level Louise Linton actually like understands all of this pop culture that she's just like referencing.
It would imply that she understands American Psycho even a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's true. Of all the things, like that's the one that this movie's most directly trying to rip off. So like it's the one she should understand the most, theoretically.
Also, I have to remind you of one of my favorite bad lines of dialogue from this film that she says when she makes her room temperature vodka martini, which is stirred, wet, and just a little bit dirty.
You can't tell that I'm repressed. You can't tell at all.
I've written down several of my other favorite bad lines from this movie. I think I'm going to disembowel this kid and eat his spleen. Dude, I'm just fucking with you. Let's see. I'm an ILF, not a MILF. I'm not a mother.
That was insane.
Oh, shut it, PC police. This is fucking hilarious. Oh my god, you're a gamer. Nunchucks are cool. What? It's just the tip. And then my most favorite, did you feed me a bunch of dudes?
The thing that really stuck out to me at one point in this movie is that, like, in a fantasy sequence Tyler has, like, they have, like, a sex scene. Like, he comes back to the house, he says, like, just the tip to her, and then she stabs him, and she says just the tip, and I'm like, okay, so how would she know to recall the thing that was in his fantasy sequence? And then he turns to the screen and says, see, that's the thing I said to her, but now she's saying it back to me. And she goes, wait, you can't break the fourth wall and talk to the audience. It's my movie. And I was like, holy shit, this moment is so broken.
Like, absolutely fuck you.
Like, at a certain point, I think, like, parts of this movie qualify as nonfiction. Like, that's how much they break the fourth wall and, like, take you out of the story.
Oh my god, so the plot of this movie, essentially, plot question mark, is Catherine Black is a sociopathic, using her words, narcissistic misanthrope, serial killer, millionaire who has invited a guy who she knows is a petty thief. She already knows, removing any tension from the film at all, to, like, rent her mansion while she's out of town. And she's like, when he tries to steal from me, I'll just, like, kill him. But then she does a bunch of Molly and has a threesome with him and makes him a dinner made of meat from men she's killed, and is like, actually, I like him a lot. The sex was very good. And he has symmetrical genitals, a thing she says. And I actually will not kill him. But then she goes to spin class and kills a guy at spin class, and he almost finds out. So she's like, "You need to leave. I'm not a good lady, Tyler. You gotta protect yourself." And so he steals her Mustang, which has the body in the trunk. There's, like, bits of something that could be an okay movie in here, like her tracking down a car thief because he stole a car with a sports car with a body in the trunk is like, that's the premise for a different other movie that might be good.
But the thing is, like, that, like, tension, like, basically is resolved before, like, most of the movie happens, which, again, is just kind of like her, like, you know, doing her best cosplay of the Huey Lewis in the News scene while Tyler just runs around the house afraid, and she changes into, like, 7 different costumes.
The, like, workout sequence that could have been her little Huey Lewis in the News thing with the Tiffany song, it's a song that I love. I think We're Alone Now by Tiffany, while she's in her little pink leotard, and it's a cute little outfit. So surreal because it has her weird voiceover, but it also has those cartoon sound effects while she's working out. It has these, like, weird, like, boing and, like, squeak. It's wild.
Like, it is like, I think that in particular is just like, wow, everything that is wrong with this movie is happening right at once.
I also like leg warmers, sweatpants, and the color pink.
And then he steals the car, and she's like, bring my car back or I'm gonna tell the LAPD. For some reason, she makes that. It's very weird.
That was
never explained.
Super strange.
Everything all about all of your criminal crimes. And he's like, oh, please don't. I'll bring your car back. And he brings the car back. And then it's like, maybe gonna be okay. But then he finds her secret freezer chest full of dead guys that she killed and has been feeding to him, bringing us the incredible line, "You're feeding me dudes," or "You fed me a bunch of dudes."
See, the thing about that freezer is that, like, it's established earlier on in the film by, like, her, like, singing and, like, making out with, like, some of the severed heads and stuff.
Mm-hmm. You will never be fresh.
That's what I was thinking, exactly, because all I could think of is the Winter Soldier, Sebastian Stan, like, singing along to that song as he's, like, you know, doing his, like, dirty deeds.
You know what, Fresh, a movie that I really like, was missing an annoying voiceover from the killer.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Every second it should have been, like, him just being like, and now I'm going to do the thing where I take you back to my secret lair. Wow.
I'm a very smart and handsome, very cool guy. My name is Steve. I do lots of murders, and I like it a lot, and it's fun.
Yeah.
I think I'm so pissed because I hate that this movie is forcing me to keep using examples of male villains in movies that I think do this better, because I don't want to have to do that. I want there to be, I don't want to have to use that juxtaposition, but the fact of the matter is that it is ripping off or, like, approximating things that a bunch of movies made by women featuring male killers do better, because I'm like, Fresh and American Psycho are both movies made by women.
No, I think that's what sucks in particular, is that, like, you know, this movie is kind of like a void where, like, a really good deconstruction and, like, gender flip of a genre could be.
You will never be Jennifer's body. You will never be Jennifer's body.
The second half of this movie, at a certain point, you're just kind of like waiting for it to end, right? Because like it's so many different chase scenes, so many different weapons. There's like a secret car room where she keeps a million cars that she doesn't drive.
And a bunch of sports memorabilia that she doesn't care about. There's one joke that made me laugh in the entire movie on purpose. A joke that made me laugh on purpose, I should say.
Yeah.
And that is when she comes back into the room, into her all-white living room, as Tyler threateningly holds a bottle of red wine over the couch and is like, get away from, like, put the knife down or the couch gets it.
No, that was really funny. The fact that, like, that actually stopped her dead in her tracks. It's like, please don't pour that red wine on that couch.
It immediately takes the wind out of this genuinely funny bit by having them have this stupid back and forth about whether it's a couch or a sofa, because Louise Linton thinks that a joke is when two people argue back and forth for, like, an annoying amount of time. Louise Linton, this is the thing that really I hate about movies like this, is it thinks it's being edgy, but it's being actually quite, most of the time, middle of the road, milquetoast, like, try hard, and there's no actual edge in it. I'm like, more gore could have maybe made this more fun to watch. More like actual proper weird shit could have made this fun to watch.
Maybe like a single on-screen murder could have made this more fun to watch.
That's the thing is, yeah, you're gonna make a serial killer movie and there's not a single on-screen murder.
The way we learn that she's a serial killer is by seeing the remains of her previous victims, but we know about her being one before that because she, like, says it over and over again.
She just tells us. There's a random moment where she stops the action to give the audience a PSA on why you shouldn't leave your dog in a hot car, which, while correct, really interrupts the tension of the film.
At a certain point, this just becomes a, like, let's hang out with Louise Linton and, what's his name? Simulator. And it's the worst.
And then they talk about how cute they are. They're like, we're so cute. Move over, Polly Pocket. Move over, My Little Pony. We're so cute. And then she's like, now I gotta kill you. Sorry.
So that's what it all builds to, is that, like, eventually they realize that, like, they're meant for each other and they have to get married and have kids. And, like, while this is all happening, it's just implied that, like, fixed her in a very strange way.
Literally, she's like, I went on some medication and I married this guy and I started working from home in the mornings, and that made me not murder anymore.
Not murdering people is my love language.
Because she says at the beginning, she's like, the worst thing I can imagine doing with my life is getting married and having kids, and then it ends with being like, and you know what? The thing that stopped her from being an evil murderer was getting married and having some kids.
And then in that final monologue, she says some shit about, like, you should never judge people for, like, you know, having a different religion or a different gender or a different political persuasion than you.
Let's all be a little kinder to one another is a line in this film.
But that, you can't say that after, like, this character spent, like, an entire scene justifying why she killed an entire freezer full of men based on all of those things.
Yeah, because some of them were people who did, like, sex crimes, and some of them were people that were just,
like,
Democrat, Republican, or independent. Because she's an enlightened centrist. She's an enlightened centrist cannibal murderer.
But I guess the real message is that, like, you shouldn't even be an enlightened centrist. You should just get married and drop out of having any sort of opinion on politics or anything altogether.
You should wear denim shorts and a t-shirt, but keep your diamonds on. You should marry a younger man and have some babies with him and have him give you a dog for Christmas. You should be in a throuple where you wear all white and sit in your all white living room and go to spin class. And when your girlfriend in your throuple shows up and says, "What's for dinner?" instead of saying a dish, they just go, "Vegan."
I forgot about that. That last sequence, I was just waiting for it to flash back to her having murdered him, because so many of the things that happened in it didn't add up.
We went from eating spiders and cannibal freezer to normie paradise to babies and dogs in spin class and paying your boyfriend's way through engineering school.
You can just kind of tell where, like, Louise Linton stopped thinking of this project as a narrative and started thinking of it as an excuse to have a bunch of cool toys to play around with in a house with, like, an old star who's fallen on some really well-deserved hard times.
It's so funny, but, like, also infuriating. And, you know, I think it, you know, but, you know, maybe we should take a hopeful lesson from this film, which is just, like, even if you're a murderer with a chest full of frozen bodies, all you need is some good dick.
Exactly.
And you can leave that all behind.
If you want to stop murdering people, please subscribe to We Are Not Alive, because we're already not alive. What's the worst that could happen?
And we won't feed you a bunch of dudes.
No, we won't.
I like his, and this doesn't even have to make it into the final video, but I do want to say, I like that he seemed to be the most angry, not that she fed him human flesh, but that they were men.
Yeah, why didn't you feed me a bunch of girls, you loser?
He's like, no, my homophobia transcends my disgust at the consumption of human flesh.
Oh no, now I've eaten male meat.
Fellas, is it gay to eat a dinner comprised of cooked male meat?
I think we gotta fade out on that. Shit, that's...